Hi everyone. Today we are going to discuss environment subject in the UPSC Prelims 2025 paper. I hope you all have attempted well in this exam, and now we will see the questions and answers to the environment part of today's exam. First, I'm starting with the question number 10. Statement 1. Activated carbon is a good and attractive tool to remove pollutants from effluent streams and to remediate contaminants from various industries. So statement 1. And for the statement 1, there are two supporting statements. One is statement 2. Activated carbon exhibits a large surface area and a strong potential for absorbing heavy metals, which is very true. And coming to statement 3, activated carbon can be easily synthesized from environmental wastes with high carbon content. So here both the given statement 2 and statement 3 are correct, but the point is whether both statements are explaining statement 1 or only one of the two statements are explaining statement 1 is the tricky part. Coming to statement 2, activated carbon exhibits a large surface area and a strong potential for absorbing heavy metals, which is true, and that is the reason activated carbon is a good tool to remove pollutants. So statement 2 is explaining statement 1. Coming to statement 3, activated carbon can be easily synthesized from wastes with high carbon content. Statement 3 is also true, and it is synthesized from environmental waste such as agricultural waste, coconut shells, etc. Here if we take this part of the question, which is activated carbon can be used to remove pollutants from industries and remediate contaminants from various industries. If we consider that part separately and statement 3 separately, we can say that statement 3 is also explaining statement 1. I'm going with the option A, but option B can also be correct. If we think activated carbon, only statement 2 is correct, then answer is option B. There's a dilemma in this question whether we have to take option A or B. If we think in a broader perspective, then statement 3 is also a correct explanation, or if we restrict ourselves to the given statements without any broader vision, then only then both the statements will be correct. So here there's a dilemma in this question. We can consider both A and B as an answer, but we don't know what UPSC will finalize. So coming to the next question. Statement 1. Studies indicate that carbon dioxide emissions from cement industry account for more than 5% of the global carbon emissions. Statement 2. Silica bearing clay is mixed with limestone while manufacturing cement, which is true. Limestone is converted into lime during clinker production for cement manufacturing. This is also true. So here both the statements are true, but when you see statement 2, silica bearing clay is mixed with limestone while manufacturing cement, this statement is true, but it is not explaining statement 1. So here the correct answer is statement B. Like both statements are true, but only statement 3 is the correct explanation of statement 1. Okay. Coming to 12th question. At 28th the 28th conference, India refrained from signing Declaration on Climate and Health. The COP28 Declaration on Climate and Health is a binding declaration, and if signed, it becomes mandatory to decarbonize health sector. Statement 2 is wrong. It is not a binding declaration. Statement 3. If India's health sector is decarbonized, the resilience of its healthcare system may be compromised. Yes. India has refrained from signing the Declaration on Climate and Health because if we sign the document and if we decarbonize our health sector, the health sector system may be compromised, because for the health sector system to be maintained, we need cold chain supply, which requires carbon. So to decarbonize our healthcare system at this point of time is not feasible for India. So India has refrained from signing the document. And statement 2 is wrong. It is not a binding declaration. So the answer will be only one of the statement 2 and 3 is correct, and that explains statement 1. So the answer is C. Next, 13th question. Scientific studies suggest that a shift is taking place in Earth's rotation and axis. Statement 2. Solar flares and associated coronal mass ejections bombarded the Earth's outer atmosphere with tremendous amount of energy, which is true. As the Earth's polar ice melts, the water tends to move towards the equator. This is also true. Here, statement 2 and statement 3 are true. But we have to see which of the statement is the correct explanation of statement 1. Here, as the Earth's polar ice melts, the water tends to move towards the equator, and the huge movement of water mass towards the equator, this causes a shift in the Earth's rotation and axis. So statement 3 is explaining statement 1. Coming to statement 2, solar flares and coronal mass ejections, they release tremendous amount of energy, which is true, but this energy is not sufficient to shift the Earth's rotation and axis. So statement 2 is right, but it is not explaining statement 1. The answer will be B. Both statements are correct, but only one of them explains statement 1. That is, statement 3 is explaining statement 1. Then, 14th question. Article 6 of the Paris Agreement on Climate Change is frequently discussed in global discussions and on sustainable development and climate change. Article 6 of the Paris Agreement sets out the principles of carbon markets, which is true. Article 6 of the Paris Agreement intends to promote inter-country non-market strategies to reach their climate targets. Basically, the recent Article 6 of the Paris Agreement on Climate Change has revolutionized the carbon trading market, and as a part of Article 6 of the Paris Agreement, the given statements, both statement 2 and statement 3, both are correct, and both are explaining statement 1. So, answer is A. Both 2 and 3 are correct, and both of them explain statement 1. Which of the following launched Nature Solutions Finance Hub for Asia and the Pacific? Okay, what is Nature Solutions Finance Hub? It means the climate mitigation strategies which we are using, and mostly rather than artificial or human-made solutions, this finance hub for Asia and Pacific, this is purely based on nature solutions like rejuvenation of wetlands or bioremediation processes. Those are included in the nature-based solutions, and that is financed by Asian Development Bank, which is a direct question. 16th one. With reference to direct air capture and emerging technology, which of the following statement is or are correct? Okay. Direct air capture, it can be used as a way of carbon sequestration, yes. It can be a valuable approach for plastic production and in food processing, yes. For plastic production, we can produce various types of polymers, and in food processing, like we can use this direct air capture to carbonate in carbonated drinks. We can use that direct air capture. So 2 is correct. And in aviation, it can be a source of carbon for combining with hydrogen to create synthetic low carbon fuel. Yes. In the aviation sector also, if we use the carbon source from direct air capture, and if we combine it with hydrogen, we can produce aviation fuel such as e-methanol. So this is also correct. All three, 1, 2 and 3 are correct. Next. Regarding peacock tarantula, consider the following statements. Okay. Peacock tarantula is a type of spider, and it is mostly seen in Andhra Pradesh, Anantapur district. It is actually critically endangered, and it is an omnivorous crustacean. No, it is not omnivorous. It is carnivorous. It feeds on insects. First one. So omnivorous is wrong, and it is not a crustacean. It is arachnida. It belongs to arachnida. So statement 1 is wrong. Okay, if we eliminate 1, okay, we are left with C and D. Its natural habitat in India is only limited to some forest areas. Yes, only limited to some forest areas in Andhra Pradesh near Anantapur district, and it is critically endangered. So statement 2 is right. In its natural habitat, it is an arboreal species. Yes, it's an arboreal species. So D, answer D. 2 and 3 are correct. Next. Question number 18. Carbon dioxide emissions in India are less than 0.5 tons of carbon per capita. That is per capita emissions of carbon dioxide. And in terms of carbon dioxide emissions from fuel combustion, India ranks second in Asia Pacific region. Yes. First is China, second is India. Electricity and heat producers are the largest source of carbon dioxide emissions in India. Yes. If we see the first option, carbon dioxide emissions in India are less than 0.5 tons of carbon dioxide per capita, which is wrong. In India, it's almost 2 tons of carbon dioxide per capita emissions. And if we consider the trend of per capita globally, world average is 4.7. So India's per capita emission is almost below the world average, and whereas US per capita emission is almost around 14. So if we compare the global average, first is US, second is China, and almost world average is 4.7, and India is below world average. This is only per capita. And in terms of overall emissions, India is in third position. Like first is China, second is US, and third is India. It is overall global emissions, not per capita. So it is in the first statement it is given it is less than 0.5. So this is wrong. It is around 2. India ranks second, yes, after China. 2 is correct. Electricity and heat producers the largest sources, yes. Coal product. Sorry. Power sector contributes largest coal combustion. So answer is 2 and 3. Okay, 19th. Correctly matched. One is cassava. Cassava is a woody shrub. Yes, cassava means tapioca. So it is a woody shrub. Yes. Ginger. It is herb with pseudostem. Yes. Ginger is a herbaceous plant. Pseudostem is a modification. Like it doesn't have a stem as such. The leaf of the ginger is modified as a stem. So it is called pseudostem. 1 is right, 2 is right. Malabar spinach. Spinach is a herbaceous climber. It uses other materials to climb. So it is a herbaceous climber. Mint is not an annual shrub. Mint is a herb and it is perennial. Mint is a perennial herb. It is not shrub. Shrub means a woody plant. Like woody plants are called shrubs. So mint is not a shrub. Papaya. Papaya, though it appears papaya is appearing as a tree, it is not a woody shrub. It is a soft stem tree, and we can say papaya as a giant herb, not a shrub. So papaya also comes under herb, and mint also comes under herb. So the answer is only 3B. Next. With reference to the planet Earth, consider the following statements. Rainforests produce more oxygen than produced by oceans? No. Oceans produce more oxygen than rainforests. Rainforests are more denser if you take per square kilometer area and produce oxygen in that density, but the overall area covered by rainforests are much lesser than the overall area covered by oceans, and oceans produce almost 50 to 70% of the oxygen requirement of the earth. So rainforests, so the first option is not right. Then marine phytoplankton and photosynthetic bacteria produce about 50% of, yes, these are nothing but ocean, like marine phytoplankton and photosynthetic bacteria, they comes under the oxygen produced by ocean, so this is right. Cyanobacteria, phytoplankton, all these things produce oxygen. Well oxygenated surface water contains several folds of higher oxygen than in atmospheric air. No, atmospheric air has around 21% of the oxygen. Well oxygen surface water. No. Surface water means dissolved oxygen in the water, which is much lesser compared to atmospheric air. So 3 is wrong. Only 2 is the right answer. Rainforests produce lesser than oxygen, and atmospheric air has more oxygen than the dissolved oxygen. So answer is 2. Okay. Which organization has enacted nature restoration law to tackle climate and biodiversity loss? Okay. This is a recent current affairs linked to environment. Nature restoration law has been passed by European Union, and it has come into force in August 2024. So the answer is European Union. Nature restoration laws mainly it has put a target like restoration of 20% of the land and 20% of the sea by 2030. It is a law enacted by European Union. World Bank warned that India could become one of the first places where wet bulb temperature routinely exceeds 35 degrees centigrade. Which of the following statement best reflects the implication of Weber said report? Okay. Wet bulb temperature, mainly wet bulb temperature is used to measure humidity, relative humidity. So, the temperature mentioned here, 35 degrees centigrade, is the highest limit of temperature where a human can survive physiologically. It's the highest level of relative humidity. So, peninsular India will most likely suffer from flooding, tropical cyclones, and drought. Yes, peninsular India may see some of these disasters, flooding, cyclones, and droughts, but this is not directly linked to the wet bulb temperature mentioned in the question. The survival of animals, including humans, will be affected as shedding of their body heat through perspiration becomes difficult. Yes, wet bulb temperature is mainly used for physiological assessment of human body and animals, where it says that if the wet bulb temperature exceeds, it becomes difficult for the body to sweat, or it will be difficult for perspiration, where we cannot exchange heat with the atmospheric temperature. Thus, we may suffer heat strokes, or the survival of animals and humans will become difficult. So, wet bulb temperature is directly related to humans, animals, or physiological things. It has nothing to do with disasters, flooding, tropical cyclones, or droughts. Though they may appear, but as a part of climate change, but wet bulb temperature indications have no connection with disasters. So the answer is only 2. I guess the environment part of the prelims paper has finished, and I hope you all have given your best. All the best for your mains. Thank you.